We got guys averaging insane triple doubles for a whole season. Oscar Robinson was a god to me because of the way he did it under the circumstances he did it. It's just watered down now. It's not a game I enjoy. And I think that you don't have to completely eliminate the way the game is being played now. But I think if you incorporate some of the stuff from the past and you find that nice little middle ground, the game would be a lot better.
Big topic of discussion yesterday online was Tim Bontemps bringing up the fact that the NBA is looking at how to fix the offensive outbursts in the league. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say this right off the top. I think this is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard.
Oh, boy. Offense
is what's bringing people in the door. The last time we saw just a defensive-minded NBA in, what was that, 2004, where it was Spurs and Detroit?
Yeah.
I believe they averaged about 94 points a game in that finals, and it was the lowest rated NBA finals in history. People don't like defensive basketball in that way. And let's look at, there's a great graph that shows the net rating of the NBA over the offensive rating over the last 20 years or so. It's pretty insane how fast it has risen from that early 2000s until now, thanks to a lot of changes. But do you guys feel that offense is a problem that the NBA is dealing with?
To a certain degree, yes, because I feel like there's just, listen, every little tic-tac call leads to more free throws, which increases scoring, and that's what I don't like. Like, you know, if somebody has their hand on the hip, get the hell out of here. That's not a foul. Like, just let that go. It's not a big deal. But there's so many calls in these games. That's the thing that I don't like, is the games just drag on sometimes, depending on what officials you get. So I want to see a little bit more physicality. I do, and I think the league. I understand the league and the direction they wanted to go after like the 90s and the early 2000s, when things got a little too out of pocket and guys were fighting, going to the stands, even like it got a little crazy, right? But I don't think there's anything wrong with, I don't know, Yusuf Nurkic knocking the fuck out of Draymond Green every now and then. I would love to see that. I would pay good money to see that. So
I think that can be one rule we allow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would like to see guys playing a little bit more physical, a little tougher. It shouldn't be so much of a finesse game. And I think we've gotten to the point where we overcorrected. I want to see a little bit more hand checking, a little bit more, little elbow to the lower back and make them think a little bit.
Yeah. I want changes.
Yeah.
I want changes. I want to go back to the old school basketball.
Oh, no.
I do. I do.
Offense wasn't slow in the 80s.
No,
right?
No, it was. I mean, there was a little bit, like you had the Nuggets and the Suns were always revving it up.
The Lakers were too.
Lakers Showtime, yeah. But here's the thing. When you took hand checking away, you changed the game dramatically. Not allowing people to get physical 94 feet. It changed everything. I just feel like this brand of basketball, this is just my opinion. It's a 3-point shooting contest.
Yeah.
Okay? You can go to any random game at any time and just look at who shot more threes and who made more threes, and that's probably who won. So it becomes a glorified 3-point shooting contest. That's one. Number two, like Saul said, way too many free throws. And it's watered down what I think is a beautiful game that I fell in love with. And I'll say this. When I was young, somebody scored 20, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. You scored 20, you scored 30, yeah, you the man.
Yeah, but
we're getting 40-point triple-doubles nightly.
Come on, back when you were a kid, Wilt was dropping 60 on people.
What? Yeah. No, I wasn't around. I wasn't around for Wilt, though.
He saw his lane and he couldn't resist.
Nope.
Yeah. No, I just feel like it's not like I hate the argument. People talk about this era player and the old players, and they're like, well, look what they're doing. And I'm like, man, like, I remember when it was a big deal to have a player get a triple-double. It was like everything you talked about. Yo, did you see last night? Bird had a triple-double. Magic had a triple-double. Mike had a triple-double. We got guys averaging insane triple doubles for a whole season. Oscar Robinson was a god to me because of the way he did it under the circumstances he did it. It's just watered down now. It's not a game I enjoy. And I think that you don't have to completely eliminate the way the game is being played now. But I think if you incorporate some of the stuff from the past and you find that nice little middle ground, the game will be a lot better. It'll be more competitive. And I think you'll appreciate talent more. I think that's my biggest problem, is that people don't appreciate greatness now because so many randoms are able to do it based on the way the game is played. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It makes sense.
It does.
I think part of that not appreciating greatness is just part of the social media landscape that wasn't around back then, because I can guarantee you if we had the access to these same guys in the 80s and 90s, like MJ would be the most loved and most hated person on Twitter by far. Like I think that's part of it. But for me, like looking at the basketball, there are games where I watch a game and it's like they're just coming down shooting threes. It feels like LA Fitness.
Yeah.
But there are games that are way more beautiful than anything we watched back in the 80s and 90s. Like the skill level, the intelligence of offense now is at a whole different level. It's on a different planet compared to that stuff. And as much as I enjoy defense, and I think they need to make some changes to cut down on it a little bit, I don't know if I'm fully on board with like hand checking yet. I think they need to make some types of changes. They need to eliminate the bullshit foul drawing that we see way too much. Like if you dribble into a guy and snap your head back, that's not a foul.
Yeah.
If you are like flailing and throwing up a shot, that shouldn't be a foul. There needs to be way more physicality allowed, because it's gotten to the point where offenses have way too big of an advantage, because we now know that 3 is worth exponentially more than 2, and teams tailor their offense to that. They tailor them to the shots around the rim, to the 3-point shots. And if you look at the numbers, that 73-9 Golden State Warriors team, that was just as recent as 2015-16. They had an offensive rating that would rank 20th in the NBA this season.
Sheesh.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
The defensive rating 5 years ago, the Bucks defensive rating led the league at 102.5. This 5 years ago, there were 6 teams better than the best defense in the NBA this season. Like the Wolves are at 108, and they're the best defense. Like, I don't think that offense should go unchecked. It does need to be balanced a little bit, because we're getting too far out of hand. But for me, it's just a place of where the league is at in terms of the brains, the skills, and the way the game is played now. It's honestly more beautiful than ever.
I would push back to a slight degree on that, just because I do think that the fundamentals of the game have been lost to a certain degree, because guys are taking advantage of their elite athleticism. That is part of this. And to Gerald's point, like the playmaking and really the cerebral nature of some of these players, it is elevated. But I do think because it's easier to get there when there's not really much of a threat physically on the other side of the coin, right? Like Gerald said, a guy takes one dribble, somebody comes to check him, and they throw their head back, and there's a foul, and you're like, bro, he didn't touch him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And guys, like, listen, I'm watching high school basketball games, and I'm seeing the same shit out there that I'm seeing in the NBA, because that's what they're learning it. They're like, they see this and they think that's the way. And I'm watching AAU teams and even high school teams. Kids don't even know what a triple threat is anymore. No. Like the fundamentals of the game. It used to be like when a guy was trying to guard you and it was, they were trying to be physical with you. You had to do other things to get the ball, like backdoor cuts, coming off of screens the right way instead of just flaring out to the 3, and these are the things that I feel like are a little bit missed in today's game. The little nuances of the game compared to what they did back in the day. So I would like to see a little bit more. I would say the officiating could be better and not falling for a lot of these little ticky-tack things that they continuously fall for. I thought that was going to be a point of emphasis this year. They said flopping was going to be a point of emphasis. And I think we saw that a couple times this year, and that's about it.
I agree that the reffing needs to change and those kind of things, but I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle. With the way the game's played now, with how spread the court is and different things, I don't know even if you let some of the physicality back in, that it changes the offensive side of this because the game is fundamentally different now. And I think what it comes down to is nobody's figured out a defensive strategy that works against the way the game's played now. When you're shooting 43s, when you're, when there's no mid-range game anymore,
Right,
that it's not, I think some of this has just fundamentally changed to
Yeah.
where it's going to take coaches figuring out defensive strategies to fight this and guys buying into it and playing defense with all this athleticism that's out there now, or the league has to change the 3-point line and get rid of the corner three. I think those are the two options that you're going to change fundamentally what's going on.
Well, it's funny because, Gerald, the other day, random, we were talking while watching the game, and I asked you a random question. I said, would you move the 3-point line back? Right? That's where I was getting at with this. It's something that I hate. To Saul's point with AAU, right? They're worried about playing games, not practicing. That's the issue with AAU. It's like, okay, I got an AAU team. How many games can we cram in for these kids? It's not about practice. And so they're not being taught right. They're just being thrown. So how many games can you play in a year? Can you play 80? Can you play 90? Can you be on this circuit, that circuit? So the fundamentals are gone. Another thing that blows my mind is that we've completely eliminated the beauty that I grew up in regards to watching the big men.
Yeah.
In the post, beautiful work, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Mutombo, go on and on. It's gone. Like, it's a dying breed. Now you want to see your centers shooting 10, 15. Like Karl-Anthony Towns is shooting how many threes per game this season?
But isn't that because of the pure fact that the game has changed the way you play it? The three worth more than two, and this analytics mentality has fundamentally changed the approach to the game.
But it's not just that. It's, for a long time, guys could body down low and back each other down. Like, Charles Barkley, when he was here in Phoenix, like, that was his go-to move, right? I always wonder and think, if Chuck and Shaq were in the league today, with the flopping that goes on, the guys that just completely just fall back as soon as they get touched, and the refs calling a charge every time, I wonder how effective they really would be in today's game, because that's what's changed as well. The way they've officiated the paint has drastically different than they used to do it back in the day. So I think that's a legit argument as well.
It's part of it, but looking at the free throw attempts, like, they're down compared to back in those times, because a lot of it, like you said, there's guys not banging in the paint the way that they used to. So there's less fouls there. There's a lot more jump shots. There's less fouls on jump shots than there are on attempts in the paint. We know that. But my thing is, like, you look at the bigs and what the skill set's different. There's an aesthetic beauty to the mid-range game of Michael Jordan. There's an aesthetic beauty to, Shaq and Chuck and these guys that used to be physical and play in the paint like that. But there's also a different skill set now with the bigs. Everybody on the court needs to be able to shoot. In 5 years, every player that is on the court will have to be able to shoot. Like, you look at guys like Rudy Gobert or Clint Capella or whatever, they're kind of the dying breed because they're the closest thing to old school centers as rim running, screen setting guys. I don't think that's going to be, that's going to be an outlier in a few years. You're going to look at your big 7-footers as more of the Chets and the Victor Wembanyamas and those type of guys that can do a little bit of everything, because the game has developed and you need to be skilled no matter what size you are. And the bigger you are, the more emphasis there is on you being skilled, because if you can be skilled, like, there's very little answer for guys like that. So it has fundamentally changed the way that we play the game when you have 4 or 5 guys that can shoot threes, and your whole offense is geared toward layups, dunks, and 3-pointers.
And that's the development of the game over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, though, right? If you start to, again, everything changes, right? If you start to allow, paint play to be a little bit more aggressive, and you start teaching, lower post moves again, and you get that back implemented into the game, then the next generation starts to learn those things as well.
Yeah.
And then we're talking 10 or 15 years from now, whoa, post plays back. And this is how it's going to go. You know, I get the, you know, shooting and the versatility of the bigs and stuff like that. It's all well and good, but it's not nearly as physical as it used to be. And I do think that makes an impact. Hell, I grew up in the game where, like, yeah, shooting a three was cool and it was fun. That's all I did because that's all I could do. I couldn't dunk. But, like, the reason why I love the NBA was because dudes were trying to dunk on everybody or, like, trying to, be physical with each other. And that's why I like Michael Jordan so much, because it felt like he was dunking on a new guy every night. And, like, I don't see that as much anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the way you embarrass somebody is either by crossing them over or shooting a three in their face from, like, 50 feet. Like, it's not even about taking it to the hole and being physical.
Here's the thing, G. And everybody, great points. I mean, this is conversation I love. The game athletically has grown to a whole different level, right? Guys, listen to what I'm saying. People are pulling up from half court, and it looks like a free throw. Like, Dame in the All-Star game was walking into half court, like, boom, no problem. If the game athletically is going to grow, the game on the floor has to evolve. I'm telling you right now, the way the game is going, if they don't move the three-point line, it's only going to get uglier. It's only going to get uglier. I'm saying, you know what? Move that damn line 25 across the whole way. Go from 23-9, take out the corner three, go 25 all across the board. And that's going to make people say, hey, bro, you better really be able to shoot this. Because if you don't, guess what got to happen? You're going to have to develop a post game. You're going to have to go back down into the block. And you're going to have to incorporate the mid-range game again. Right now, it feels like it's threes or layups. And when you shoot the mid-range, we're a mid-range team. When you shoot the mid-range, you got to have guys that are Devin Bookers, KDs, Brad Beals, right? Most teams don't have that. And so, if on most nights you watch the Pacers play, man, I mean, listen, it drives me crazy. It's 130 to 130 every night. To me, that's not basketball. To me, that's a professional AAU game.
I know that to you guys,
right?
To me who grew, that's not, but that is basketball to this generation. And I think the post play, I agree, there needs to be more physicality. But I think part of the reason post play isn't what it used to be is there aren't Joe Kleins and Danny Shays and the Mark Eatons, these big plotting guys that you need to attack with another big body that's more athletic than him. Those guys have been pushed out of the league based on the evolution of athleticism and the change in just the way these guys are built now. It's there. I don't know that there's that same, we need to smash into this guy because all he can do is stand there. I think that guy's been played out of the game.
It's just math. It's just basic math. Like, you look at what points you're generating on post-ups and on the block and that type of old school game. I don't think the NBA is ever going back to that unless the rules change to where that becomes a thing that you can take advantage of. Like, threes are just worth more than twos. And if you expand the three-point line, my worry is you have to expand the court. If you give these guys more room on the court, that's more spacing. Yeah. So, you'll probably get more rim attacks, but you'll probably get a ton of threes as well. So I'm not really sure there is a fix for it. I think the biggest one is allowing defenders to be more physical and skewing the advantage back in their favor, so it's not such an offensively tailored game. Because right now, the advantage we know is always to the offensive player, and that's a problem.
Do you remember when we moved the line to 22 across the board?
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah.
Why did we do that? Why did we do that?
To get more shooting
to
and
get more
points,
offense, right? And so, to me,
they also moved it back in at a certain point too. And
no, they moved
it.
They moved it from 23-9 to 22 cross, and then it was like, no, that ain't it. Let's bring it back, right? But I feel like they've moved the line. You can't move the line. Some people in the chat say you can't move the three. You can move the line. It's been done.
But if you eliminate corner threes, that's a fundamentally different.
Well, no, okay,
game,
but
right?
here's maybe you don't listen. Corner threes, no corner threes. You move the line up to generate more offense. There is a world where you look at this and you're like, damn, we might need to move it back. There's too much offense now. And so I'm just saying, look at it. Threes are more than twos. And that's never going to change. Mathematically, it's never going to change. But if this keeps up at this rate, at the rate that these fucking guys can score, and the rate that they can shoot the basketball, where does it end, man? Like, at what point are we just, again, the NBA becomes a glorified shooting contest as opposed to a game where you're doing everything. So, Gerald, you made a great point. You said these guys are more skilled. They're not showing all their skill. They just fucking shooting.
Okay, well,
I don't think so, though, because I think you look at the offenses they're running.
I think they're just shooting.
They're way more sophisticated than like the triangle offense back in the day. They're way more complex because you have guys that can do so many different things and that you can plug into so many different spots. Like that's what makes the Suns special. That's what makes different teams around the league special is you can plug and play guys in different spots because you need to be able to handle the ball. You need to be able to set screens and shoot threes and drive and do all of these different skill sets.
But I think we did all that in the 80s when it was hard.
No. The 4s and 5s couldn't dribble for shit. They couldn't do anything other than set screens and be on the block. Like they and rebound. Right. Like
that's
game
why
is
Charles
so much
was
more
so
skilled
different.
now.
He could do
so here's the thing. The game, when you say the game is more skilled, I look at it and I say, I don't know if I buy that because there's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of dribbling, there's a lot of shooting. Okay, but the days of like, who's the best post up guards in the league?
Look, there's only one way to change this, and it's to go all the way back and have no 3-pointer where every shot's worth 2, and it would fundamentally change things because you said it. Math isn't going to change. You're not changing the math.
Yeah, you don't add
so
a 4-point shot. None of that stupidness.
The game doesn't go back as long as 3 is worth more than 2, and it will forever be worth more than 2.
I just feel like it went from you can teach kids how to post up, how to dribble, how to shoot, how to be physical, all this other stuff. And now I really think it's just about, hey, can you dribble? Can you shoot?
Well, that's fair.
If you can dribble and you can shoot, we're Gucci.
I think that's another discussion for another time, looking at how you could fix youth basketball to lead to changes here.